Welcome. Today we've got a half-hour yin style yoga practice. So I recommend, and particularly if you're doing your practice on a harder floor, recommend having some kind of blanket. You can even use a couple of towels just to soften the surface beneath you. And also if you have some cushions available, so they can be cushions from your couch, they can be pillows from your bed, just whatever you have. And otherwise, just making sure that you're in an environment that's peaceful, that's warm enough. And you might even like to light some incense or some candles or put on some nice calming music. So whatever you'd like to do, just to kind of set your environment as a nice, peaceful one. And then we'll get into our practice. So once you've got everything organized, with a blanket underneath you, if possible, we'll come into our first pose. So we're going to start with child's pose. And with this variation, we'll take the knees out wide, bring the big toes to touch behind, and walk the hands forward, lowering your torso down between the thighs and getting as close to the ground as you comfortably can. So one option here to make this a little more comfortable, a little more accessible, could be to place a cushion between your bottom and your heels, or you might place something between your ankles and the floor. If you find that the issue you're having with child's pose, the difficulty that you're having is getting the head low enough to the floor, you can always bring a cushion to place your head on. Or you can stack your arms, stack your wrists, and bring your head to rest. So if you need to, just find something to prop the head up or to bring the floor closer to the head. Now bringing your attention to your body, notice how this feels for you and what you're feeling. So for most people, this is quite a deep stretch through the inner thighs, lower back, maybe the tops of the thighs, maybe through the ankles as well. If your arms are extended, you might feel into a stretch through the shoulders, armpits, and maybe even into the sides of your body. So wherever you are, whichever variation of child's pose you've taken, just take a moment here to notice how it feels. And scan from your fingers up the arms, down through the back to the hips, legs and feet, and just notice anywhere that you're still holding tension or anywhere that you might be able to release or soften a little into this position. And you could always start to deepen your breathing a little bit. The breath becomes smooth and long. And the long, soft exhalations can be really helpful in this process of softening and relaxing through the body, through the muscles. And just allowing the weight of your body to release down to the ground. We've just got 5 more breaths here. Releasing as much of your body weight as you can to the floor. And keeping your awareness on the breath, we'll walk the hands a little over to the left. So if you're using a yoga mat, your hands might just come off to the edge of the yoga mat, or just out diagonally from your left shoulder. You can keep your hands side by side. You might even bring your right hand to rest on top of your left. And gentle stretch through the right side of the torso. Continue on with that deeper breath. So each breath is conscious and full. One more deep breath in and out here.
Keep using the exhalations to release and to surrender a bit more. And then walking slowly, mindfully back to the center with the hands, bringing the torso with you, and then over to the right side. Allowing the muscles of the neck to relax as you release the head down, whether that's to the floor or to a cushion, doesn't matter. As long as the muscles of the neck can be relaxed. Resting attention on the breath. One more deep breath in and out. Slowly returning to the center and then just starting to walk your hands in, lifting the torso, moving really slowly. So the longer we take holding a stretch, the deeper we're able to go into the tissue. So really important that we make our way back out nice and slow. And from here, bringing the knees in together. If you feel like you need a break from bent knees and want to straighten your legs, maybe you've lost a bit of blood flow, you can always take the legs out in front, give them a little bit of a shake, and join in on this next position when you feel ready. But next we're coming to hero's pose, or the Sanskrit name Vajrasana. You can stay here sitting on your heels if you'd like. Otherwise, the option is to take the heels just outside the hips and sit your bum down toward the ground in between the heels. Now, if you're not quite making it to the ground due to some tightness through your thighs or your hips or anywhere else in your body, if you have a cushion nearby, you can always place a cushion underneath your bum just to get a bit more height there. If you don't have a cushion but you're working with a blanket, you could even roll the blanket up a few times and place that underneath your bum. So doing whatever you need to do so that this is accessible, or that you find an accessible variation of this position, of this stretch. And once you've found that, you've organized through the base of your position, see if you can lift nice and tall through your torso, through your spine. Relax the shoulders, soften through the face. If you're looking for a deeper stretch, you can always take the hands back behind you and start to lean back. If that's feeling all right, you can come down onto your forearms. Those of you that are really open through the thighs, that don't really have much restriction or tightness, you might even come all the way down onto your back. But if you find that in doing that, your knees lift up off the floor or your knees spread out and away from each other, that's a sign that you've gone too far. So just bring yourself up. You've got time to move a little deeper gradually. Wherever you are, just deepening the breath and deepening your present moment awareness, drawing all of your energy, all of your attention to this moment, to each breath. And know as well that if you have an old injury or a current injury with either of your knees, you can do this just one leg at a time. So whichever leg you had or have your injury on, you can just take that out straight and just work on the one side. So we're only here for 5 more breaths. Just working on releasing, letting go. It's a big part of this yin practice, is letting go of any resistance, whether that's physical or mental. But in order to let go of the resistance, first we have to become aware of it. So keeping your mind present, not escaping through thoughts or fantasy or memory. Staying with your experiencing, noticing. That's the key. So if you're leaning back, just start to make your way back up using support from your hands and going slowly. And to release out of this one, we'll come onto hands and knees. So pressing up to hands and knees. And if you feel the need to, again, release the legs or relieve the legs a little bit, you can tuck the toes under, lift your hips up and back, and just take a little walk through your downward facing dog. If there's a different kind of stretch or release you feel would be useful for you, feel free to do that instead. So coming back onto hands and knees, and now we're going to take both of the feet over to the left and sit back down. Then try to bring your right foot inside your left thigh. So this was sometimes known as mermaid pose, sometimes known as deer pose. If you have a cushion or a number of cushions, you can place those cushions out to the right, outside your right hip. And taking a deep breath in, lifting tall through your torso. And as you breathe out, turn your torso to the right, bring your hands to the ground outside that right leg, and just start to walk them away from your hips, away from your legs. You might stay here on the hands, drawing through that left hip towards the right. So twisting from the pelvis, spiraling up through the spine. If you want to go a little bit deeper, or you just want to come off your hands, you can bring yourself down onto your forearms. And if you've got the cushions there, the cushions will be there for some kind of support for your torso as well. So we're going to hold this one for about 10 breaths. You might even close your eyes here, really draw the focus to the breath and mentally counting each breath until you get to 10. Without rushing this process of breathing or rushing to get to 10 breaths. See how long and deep you can get the breath. Last deep breath in and out. Bringing the hands to the floor if they aren't already. Walking back towards center, bringing the torso upright. And then coming out of the twist, facing forward. Take a little lean back into the hands to extend the legs out in front. And we're going to extend them out wide. So before we come to that same position on the other side, we're going to take a few breaths in a forward fold. So legs just comfortably wide, so nothing too extreme there. You don't want to be cramping through the hips or anything like that. Allowing for a soft bend in the knee. You can even place a cushion under each of the knees if you'd like. Breathing in, lifting tall through the torso. As you breathe out, walk the hands forward and see if you can get this hinging motion coming from the hip, keeping the back fairly straight and just getting that hinging motion forward. So you might not actually need to come very far in order to feel quite a good stretch, maybe through the lower back, inner thighs, or maybe it's somewhere else for you. Allowing your shoulders to release down and slightly back. So you've got a nice broad space through the chest. Centering the head. Maybe even closing the eyes and taking 10 breaths here. You could make little micro steps deeper into the stretch with each exhalation if you'd like. Just be wary not to go too far. Long, slow, deep breaths. One last breath in, filling the lungs and out. Slowly walking the hands in. We'll just pause for a moment in this upright position. Just resetting through the lower back. taking a moment to check in, notice how you're feeling. And then we're going to bring the left foot, left heel in toward the groin or toward the inside of this right thigh. Take a little lean to the left and bring this right heel, right shin to the outside of the right leg, facing down toward the ground. If you've got your cushions or you found those useful last time, you can place them over onto the left, taking a deep breath in, lifting tall, twisting on your exhalation, bringing the hands to the ground. And this hip might naturally start to lift up. That's totally fine. You're going to draw it over to the left with you. Working to square up the shoulders as much as possible here. So in doing that, left shoulder pulls back, right shoulder pulls forward. That's going to deepen this twist through the abdomen, through the pelvis, through the spine. And then just finding that degree of depth over to the left that suits you. So working within your comfortable range. Obviously, we want to get a little bit of a stretch. We want to feel something happening. Otherwise, we're wasting our time, but we don't want to go too far that we're going to regret it tomorrow or cause ourselves too much discomfort or inner agitation. So we're looking here to let go of resistance. Maybe even working towards letting go of controlling outcomes, controlling experience, and just allowing what naturally is to arise, to pass, and to flow through our experience. And we become the witness, the observer, just objectively watching the thoughts, watching the breath, watching the sensations, all impermanent, just arising and passing. Last few deep breaths here. Noticing where you can soften, sink a little further into the floor beneath you or into the cushions, whatever support you have. Last deep breath in and out. Pressing into the hands, walking back to center. Untwisting to face forward. Resting there for a moment, or if you need to, you can extend your legs back out. When you feel ready, just slowly moving down onto the back, keeping the soles of the feet on the floor. Heels in nice and close to the buttocks. Take the feet wide and bringing the arms to a cactus shape. So arms extend out in line with the shoulders, but bend at the elbows at 90 degrees, backs of the hands resting on the floor. And then dropping the knees to the left. Pause there, take a deep breath in and out, releasing through the glutes, through the hips. Breathing in, bringing the knees to center. And breathing out, dropping them to the right. Deep breath in, releasing any holding through hips, through glutes. Exhale. Breathing in, coming to center. Now we'll bring the soles of the feet together and the knees out wide, dropping down toward the ground. And if you have cushions handy, you could place those either side of the outsides of your thighs for a bit of support. Otherwise, you can always make a fist and use your hands there for a bit of support. Or if you're quite comfortable with them just hovering in the air like that, then you're welcome to just stay there. Get as comfortable as you can here. And bring one of your hands to rest on the lower belly. One hand to rest somewhere comfortably on the chest. And take 5 deep breaths consciously into your belly. So keeping the chest, the ribs quite still here, just expanding the belly as you inhale and allowing the belly to release back down as you exhale. 5 rounds. Engaging the diaphragm muscle with the breath. Again, the pace of the breath is nice and relaxed. And after 5 breaths into the belly, bring both hands to the ribs or either side of the ribs. And now we're going to breathe solely, isolate the breath into the area of the ribs. So breathing into the side ribs, front ribs, and back ribs. Exhaling and feeling the ribs kind of softening back in towards your center. It might just be really subtle. Breathing in, ribs expand. Breathing out, ribs fall back in. A couple more breaths in this way. Focusing on the breath in the area of the ribs, middle of the torso. One more deep breath in and out. And bringing the hands now to rest on the chest, or you can just use one hand, and breathing just up into the chest, just for 3. So feeling the chest lift, maybe the collarbones lift, maybe the shoulders shrug slightly, and breathing out, softening all of that back down towards the hips, towards the ground. One more of those breaths. Now hands back to the belly, inhale into the abdomen. Exhale, release it out. Hands to the ribs, inhale to ribs. Exhale, release. Hands to chest, breathing into that space. A real lift of the breath, exhale, release. Now one hand to the belly, one hand to the chest. Breathing into the belly, into the chest, and into the chest, and then all the way back out again. So we're now moving each inhalation from the belly up through the ribs to the top of the chest, and then all the way back down again. So this is known as 3-part breathing. So if we break the lungs into 3 main lobes, we've got the lower lobes, middle lobes, and upper lobes, and we're using all 3 lobes for this breath. When we breathe in this way, we're starting to move towards our full capacity of breathing, which is much, much more than the typical breath that we take. When we breathe deeply like this, there's time for the gases to exchange more efficiently, more effectively, more fully. For the oxygenated blood to move through the body, nourishing every cell, every function of the body and the brain. When we fill the lungs completely with each breath like this, we're also creating an internal massage for the organs, which helps to flush out any stagnant fluid, blood, anything like that, and create space for fresh blood and fluid to move through. So we kind of getting rid of any sluggishness, the level of the organs. Take 5 more of these breaths. Belly, ribs, chest, inhale. Exhale all the way back down. If you find the legs are getting uncomfortable, you can bring the knees back together. Maybe take the heels out wide and drop the knees in together for a counter stretch. Last couple of breaths. And relaxing your hands down to the sides, extending your legs straight. Or if you're more comfortable with the feet on the floor, that's fine. You can always place a cushion underneath your knees for a bit of support as well. If you feel the need to cover yourself with an extra layer, you're welcome to do that. And we just take a few moments here, allowing the body to just naturally breathe by itself. So the breath is spontaneous. Letting go of any control of the breath, but keeping the awareness resting there. Letting the whole body release into the floor to completely relax, including all the muscles of the face around the eyes and around the mouth, the jaw and the throat, as well as the joints of shoulders, elbows, wrists, hips, knees, and ankles, whole body heavy, releasing down. Maybe a sense of sinking into the floor. Taking this really precious time to nourish the body and the mind, to restore the nervous system, to recalibrate inner balance, homeostasis, and increase our capacity to handle stress. Really important to be able to recharge and reset. If we just try and keep going, eventually we hit a wall or the body starts to break down. And if it's not the body that starts to break down, it's the mind. So if we don't take time to recenter and rebalance, we're just running towards this breakdown. Running towards dis-ease and ill health. So feel this time of nourishment, rest. A really crucial part of your life, of your week, even of your day. To consciously take rest, to consciously relax, just for 5 minutes. No distractions, nowhere to be, nothing else to do.